Alrighty, so today we're going to talk about the Vancouver Whitecaps in the Moving Forward series episode. And straight off, we got to talk about the big headlines that this team has already made this offseason. Not only the fact that they announced the dismissal of Vanni Sartini after these past couple of season unable to get past the first round, but it seems like the ownership group of the Whitecaps are also announcing the sale of the team. And now there is definitely some uncertainty when it comes to who exactly is going to buy this team, especially with the way that the bid for this team is about $500 million, and with the way that the Canadian market is kind of in a bit of a downturn, that is a lot of money for anyone to look to try and to buy the team. And there's definitely some Whitecaps fan are kind of concerned. I think the worst case scenario could be that this team could be moved somewhere else in the near future. But that being said, in terms of last season as well, as I mentioned, it's another frustrating season where they once again cannot shake that narrative of getting past the first round. Although at least this season they did win a playoff series, which is something that it has not happened a lot this Whitecaps franchise. In fact, ever since they joined in the lead in the beginning of the 2010s. This team have only won three playoff series, and this was one of them in this playoff round. And I'll talk about how it depends on if you count the playing round as a playoff win. But with that being said, they finished with 13-8-13 record, finished with 47 points. They scored 52 goals this season while allowing 49 goals, so right about average when it comes to the goal scoring, goal allow in terms of the league, and they had a goal differential of +3. They finished eighth in the Western Conference, but unfortunately, it's that LAFC team that knocked them out in the playoffs. They must be getting sick of seeing LAFC knocking them out, not only in the playoffs, but also in the CONCACAF Champions Cup as well, because that has happened a couple of times as well, alongside with some Liga MX team and Tigres, specifically, that are knocking them out of the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Now, in the last five seasons, last year they finished pretty much similar to where they finished this season. Just one more point. 12, 12, and 10 record, finishing in sixth place with 48 points finished, but they were once again eliminated by LAFC in the first round. In 2022, they finished ninth with a 12, 7, and 15 record and finished with 43 points. But as we mentioned before, that was the year when this new format was not introduced. So, if the format was introduced during that year, they would have made the playoffs, but they did not make it as a result. In 2021, they made it to the playoffs by finishing in sixth place. In fact, it's the first time that they actually made it into playoffs since 2017. They had a bit of a playoff drought coming into that year, but they finally broke it with a 12, 3, and 9 finish. And I wrote 19 there. That's actually wrong there. I think what I meant is to write 12, 13, and I put the wrong one there. But yeah, they finished with 12, 13, and 9 record, finish with 49 points, but they were eliminated by Sporting KC in the first round. And then prior to that, in the COVID shortened season, they did not make it to the playoffs. In ninth place with 9-0-14 record. If they were in the Eastern Conference, they would have made it into the playoffs because of the play-in system. But in the West, there was no play-in system. They missed out of the playoffs with just 27 points, and they did not make it to the playoffs. And most famously, that season, I think they're gonna go down as the only team in MLS history to have not suffered a single draw in the entire season, and that record probably is gonna stand because not only it was a shortened season, but it is hard to not draw a single game in a 34 game season. I mean, there's teams that have maybe have low amount of draws, but for the majority of the season, every team at least have drawn ones, and it was quite crazy to see the Whitecaps didn't even draw a single game, even if it was in a shortened 23 game season. But in 2019, they finished in 12th place with an 8, 10, and 16 record, finished with 34 points, did not make it to the playoffs. Top goal scorer for this team, unsurprisingly, it's the two-headed monster of Brian White and Ryan Gaul. Brian White, of course, leads the team with 16 goals, followed by Ryan Gaul with 15 goals. They got Fafa Pico, who currently have 9 goals, although, knowing that he has already announced on Instagram he's on his way out, and now there's rumor that it seems like Inter Miami might be the team to try to acquire his service. I mean, that's kind of an interesting team. I of all the East Coast teams that I know, Fico wants to go back there. I wouldn't think Inter Miami would be that team to do so, but I guess if you get a chance to play Messi and friends, why not do so? Then you got Ryan Raposo with 3 goals, and then Stuart Armstrong with 2 goals. Again, it's a huge drop off after these three guys. Pretty much these three guys has providing the goal scoring for majority of the season for this Whitecaps team. Top assist leader, unsurprisingly, it's Ryan Gaul with 15 assists, followed by Fafa Pico with 6 assists. Then you got Sebastian Berhalter with 5 assists, Ryan Raposo with 4 assists, and Andres Kubas with 3 assists to round up the top 5 list of the assist chart. The best win of the season, it's no doubt the 5-0 win that they had against the Portland Timbers. Again, if you count playing in games as a playoff win, it would be their third ever playoff series win in their franchise history. And quite coincidentally, the last time that they won a playoff series was against the San Jose Earthquakes in 2017, and the scoreline was also 5-0. So if they're gonna win a playoff series, which is a rare occasion for this club, it's going to be in an extravagant fashion, and that was kind of the case. I mean, they absolutely destroyed the Portland Timbers, and not only did they destroy them, but they destroyed them in front of their own backyard, and it's almost feel like they don't even really care about how they weren't able to host a playing game because of schedule conflict at BC Play. They're just gonna absolutely embarrass in front of Timber Army and all those Timbers faithful. The worst loss of the season, I'm going to go with the 3-2 loss that they suffer against New England on June 15. And really, the scoreline didn't indicate the fact that it was not as close as the scoreline suggests. I mean, New England was by far the better team. And even though that was during a time when the Revs was starting to find some momentum under Caleb Porter, yeah, that was not a great performance for the Whitecaps whatsoever. And this was a team that they have had a knack of getting wins on the road as well. So to kind of look flat for majority of that game, yeah, you could say that that was definitely the worst loss of the season for them. Now, in terms of average attendance, 26,121. If you recall, there's been a couple of games where they open up the upper deck in celebration of the 50th anniversary of the Vancouver Whitecaps. And then there's also that one game where they play against Inter Miami and was hoping Messi and friends would show up, but no, Messi and friends did not show up. Well, his friends did show up, but the big man himself, Lionel Messi, didn't show up in that game, and I'm pretty sure there was a lot of disappointing fans there that attend that game thinking that they would see the greatest player of all time, only to get completely duped. And I kind of have a feeling that next season that might be the same case for a Western Conference team. My theory, it's probably going to be the Quakes that is going to get that unfortunate honor of unable to see the GOAT play himself. Consider again, during that stretch where Inter Miami has to play against Western Conference team in a row. It's in a span of or in a span of 3 days where they play Minnesota and then they play the Quakes and then they have to travel back to Florida and back home playing against their hated rival Orlando City. So you just kind of had a sense that in the 3 games in 7 day stretch, and knowing that Messi, this maybe could be his last year with Inter Miami since is getting up there in age, and I know there is an option for him in 2026, and he has said that he would like to play, especially in the new stadium that they built. There could be a chance that the Quakes might get the undubious honor that the Whitecaps did this year, which is, they were promised that they won the lottery, see Messi and friends, and yeah, they saw his friends, but definitely did not see Messi. But in terms of the MVP of this team, I could have easily gone with either of the dynamic duo, but I'm gonna go with Ryan Gaul. I mean, this is no disrespect to Brian White, but what Ryan Gaul brings to the table, both on the goal scoring and assist chart, is absolutely marvelous. I mean, he is probably one of the most underrated, if not the most underrated number 10 in this league. In fact, if you would have put a top 10 list in terms of number 10, I would say so there are going to be people that might not include Ryan Gaul on that list, which I think that's absolutely insane because I think he's been absolutely amazing. He has lived up to that Scottish Messi kind of label that he had coming into this league, and every time he has the ball, he can make magic for this team. That again, this is something that the Whitecaps have not had in a very long time. Not since a certain Pedro Morales showed up for this team in their early existence in club history. Disappointment. I'm gonna go with Ali Ahmed. So I could have easily gone with a couple of the youngster. I mean, when it comes to this Whitecaps team, they do have some good young talent as well. But this season, it feels like some of these youngster has really stagnated. I think Ali Ahmed is a great example of it, especially with the way that he was on not only one of the more highly talented player that could potentially show off for some money to Europe, but he was on the Canadian national team radar as well. He did play, I think, earn a couple of caps with the Canadian national team as well. And this season, it just feels like his growth has just completely stagnated and didn't really play as big of a role that we saw this season for the Whitecaps compared to previous season. Now, in terms of young player to watch, I'm gonna go with Pedro Vite, and I could have also easily put Pedro Vite in the disappointment category. Again, this season he had a really stagnated kind of season. You would think that he was going to take a step up, consider he's has done very well during his time with the Whitecaps, but no, he just didn't really play well for majority of the season. You could maybe say his growth has gone worse as things goes, but I still believe that he's going to get back on track. I mean, when we talk about young players, sometimes they might have a year or two where they might show some regression therefore, and I think that's kind of the case we've seen with Pedro Vite. But I do believe that he can get that back, and the same goes for Ali Ahmed as well. If this Whitecaps team, and especially if this new coaching regime would give chance to these youth players to develop, continue to develop. So what went right for this Vancouver Whitecaps team? Well, they won the Canadian Championship again. So this is the first time that they have gone back to back after for the in their existence. They've only like won one Canadian championship. So yeah, they're back in the Concacaf Champions Cup, and they do play against Saprissa in the first round. Which yeah, that's not going to be an easy task, but we have seen before where teams have been able to beat Saprissa, and Saprissa isn't as big of a heavyweight in the Central American region compared to what we see. In fact, you could even argue that they're not even considered to be right now the best Costa Rican team right now as well. But the other thing that went right, I mean, the Ryan Gold Brian White connection, the dynamic duo I've talked about so many times how good both of these guys are. Probably the most lethal dynamic duo we see in the league, and it's just gonna get better heading into next season as well. These two guys have been so consistent for the past couple of years. And then, of course, they won a playoff game and did it in style. Again, depending on if you count a playing game as a playoff win, I think Whitecaps fan will say absolutely. And again, every time when they win a playoff series, they're gonna have to do it in style. And that 5-0 drumming that they hand to the Timbers, yeah, that was definitely one of the better nights for Whitecaps fans to enjoy their team. So what went wrong for this team? So yeah, the narrative of them unable to get past the first round for the past couple of playoff appearances is still there, and again they got eliminated by LAFC in the first round. Though I will say this time it was a lot closer compared to the last year, and considering that they actually forced a game free as well, unlike last year where they didn't force a game free, although it was a bit controversial in terms of why they didn't force a game free, especially what happened in game number two. But yeah, at least this time they they forced a game free, and really in all three games they were very competitive. I mean, I would say that if things would have just gone right for them, they probably would have won that series against LAFC. I mean, game number one, they played well in the first half, couldn't capitalize, and eventually LAFC pulled away. Game number two was just an absolute masterclass of the Whitecaps play. Probably one of the better performances that they've ever had. In fact, I probably could have said that would have been their best win of the season as well. But game number three, in the game against LAFC, again, they went toe to toe with LAFC for the majority of the game, but they just don't have that big moment, and that's what you need when it comes to playoff game. You need to have those big moments. You need to have a guy that steps up, and they definitely have players to do so. But unfortunately, they weren't able to do it, and that's why the narrative is still there in terms of them not able to get past the first round. Regression to some of their young players. I already mentioned about Pedro Vite, Ali Ahmed, and all these young players that has took a bit of a regression compared to previous year. And then, of course, I think the other thing that throughout the year, there's a reason why there's a lot of people aren't giving the Whitecaps as much respect as they should earn. And as much as throughout the season when they were near the top half of the standings, and Whitecaps fan demand that this team get some respect. Well, the reason why they can't really been respect for, and why people say that maybe this team is a bit of a fraud team, is the fact that they couldn't really get a signature win against top tier team, and that's another reason why adds the narrative of the first round exit. Of if you can't win against these top tier teams, especially these teams that you're going to have to face in the playoffs at the end of the season, most likely. There's not really a lot of chance that you can go deep into the playoffs. I mean, you can they do a good job in terms of taking care of easy team, and that's something you thing I think it is lost on how teams take it for granted the fact that when they play easy team they get easy 3 points, but in reality that's just not how it is. But for this Whitecaps team, they did a good job in terms of actually taking care of business against teams that they should beat. But it's just the fact that when it comes to the top tier team, when they really need to get a signature win to really kind of send a message to the rest of the league that they are definitely for real, they aren't able to do so, and that's why a lot of people didn't really kind of take them seriously heading into playoffs, and even gave them the respect that they deserve, even though they were for the majority of the season near the top half of the standings, and really they kind of started to drop off because of that downturn that they had near the end of the season. Now, moving forward for this team, so I already mentioned about the new ownership change, and that's a big question mark because again, you know, on one hand, that's good news for a Whitecaps fan because I'm pretty sure that this Whitecaps fan base has been very frustrated with the current ownership of being very really cheap as well and not really reinvest the team that they hope that they should be. But at the same time, it can be a scary thing considering what if no one actually buys this team and what if this team potentially could move. Again, I don't think this team is gonna move anywhere else. I mean, I think I mentioned about the save the cap kind of campaign. I don't think we're gonna get to that point, and especially I think MLS in general they don't want to lose Vancouver as one of the market. Vancouver is the third biggest market in Canada. I pretty sure they would love to keep those Canadian teams there with those three big Canadian cities able to get a team. So I think they're gonna do everything to try to keep the team in Vancouver. And I think as we get continue the off season, we would potentially see a new ownership, or maybe the current ownership might actually scale down in terms of the sale of the team because again $500 million, especially in the current market and in the current Canadian downturn economics, that is way too much in my opinion. A new head coach again. Vanni Sartini dismissed. There's a bit of a mixed opinion about that. On one hand, people are happy the fact that it is because Vanni Sartini, of all the aura that he of course had, he wasn't really delivering in terms of the resort that this Whitecaps team has had. But on the other hand, his amazing aura and the fact that he was a very likable guy as well in the Whitecaps fan base. Maybe some Whitecaps fans are kind of a little bit disappointing to see he's not going to be returning, and the ownership decided to kind of pull the trigger, especially with the way that they looked competitive in that first round matchup against LAFC. I would have thought that would have given Vanni Sartini another year to work with, but it was not meant to be, and now it's going to be interesting who's going to be the new head coach for this team. Bear in mind, there's still I think 4 MLS team right now that doesn't have a head coach. We talk about in a year where it's been a huge amount of coaching changes and the coaching carousel just spinning ever so fast compared to previous season. There's still some very interesting names out there. Can you imagine if Jim Curran actually end up to be the head coach of the Vancouver Whitecaps? Like that would be kind of unexpected, but there could be a chance that could be the case because again, of all these new head coaches that's been hired, I'm really surprised no one has decided to give Jim Curran a chance because I was assuming he was the hottest head coaching name right now currently in the head coaching market. And then lastly, it just feels like they need one more piece in the attack to get over the hump. And I don't know if they can do that consider they already filled up all three DP spots. They're really hoping that Stuart Armstrong is that guy, though. Again, Stuart Armstrong is approaching his his mid 30s, and that was kind of a weird kind of signing. I mean, I know that they're bringing a guy that can bring some experience, and especially during a short time, he has shown flashes of the ability that he can bring to the table. But again, signing a guy that is near the twilight of his career, and especially not a household name as well, and especially signing him on a DP contract as well, that was kind of a very baffling kind of move, and that again I think that they only have like one U22 initiative spot left to work with, and I'm assuming they're probably going to use that on the attacking end. But nevertheless, heading into next season, I mean, obviously it's getting to a point where if you're a Whitecaps fan, you're hoping that not only this team make it to the playoffs again, but they just need to get past that for first round narrative. I mean, it has to be frustrating for a fan base like the Whitecaps, haven't really seen a lot of success, and even when they do make it to the playoffs, it's a very early playoff exit. You just hope that maybe with the team that they currently have, if they get the right pieces going, and especially if they also get the injury luck, there could be a chance maybe next season the Whitecaps could make some noise depending on this new coaching change and who exactly is going to be the right head coach. And if they do hire the right head coach and bring in the culture, there could be a chance that the Whitecaps could be competitive not only in the regular season but even in the playoffs again as well next season. But there you have it. That is pretty much it. Looking at the Vancouver Whitecaps in the Moving Forward series episode. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of this video, and if you're a Whitecaps fan, what do you think is the MVP disappointment, young player to watch, what went right, what went wrong, and most importantly, moving forward, how's this team going to look heading into next season? But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.